Welcome to Lantec's Video Interface Edition 21. We've come of age. Here's the stop frame index, and if you'd like to read those timings correctly, you might like to reset your VCR minutes and seconds counter now. Well, welcome to Edition 21. This is a slightly different edition of the programme from normal in that we have one main topic, and that is PC systems and network management. And we have contributions to that debate from both IBM and digital. At the end of the programme, Guy Kewney will be back with his general view of the world of computing, of course. But first on are IBM with their new product, PC System View. And here's their worldwide product manager, Alison Farley. Welcome, Alison.
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity.
It's our pleasure. Alison, PC System View used to be called NetFinity. So the first question must be, why did you change the name?
Yes, you're right. PC System View has literally just had a name change. And the reason for that was because PC System View is IBM's strategic product across all of the Intel platform for managing the hardware. And we wanted to identify it as a member of the System View strategy. And therefore giving it the name PC System View was a logical move.
Right. We saw NetFinity about a year ago. Mitch Medford, our viewers may remember, came over from the States and showed us that. And that did a pretty good job, I felt, of managing the hardware. I understand that System View does a bit more than that, but show us how the hardware management has improved first, if you would.
Okay, we have improved the hardware management significantly, and one of the new features that I'd like to show you today is actually a RAID manager. It gives us the ability to manage a RAID array on a server remotely, and you can even do this across a serial line, a dial-in line, from home if you need to.
That sounds like every MIS manager's dream. Yes, but do carry on and show us.
Okay, I'm just going to take you through a few screens here so we can get to our server in the first place. So what I have to do is to go through Remote System Manager.
Right.
And you see I have two systems on the network here, which is my manager, which is running OS2, and my server, which also is running OS2. But we have actually added some other platform support. So in addition to NetWare, OS2 and Windows 3.1, which we supported previously, we now also support Windows 95 and Windows NT.
Oh, that's good.
And the interfaces look exactly the same. So you can use your imagination if you're an NT user.
Sure.
Now let's go into the RAID manager. You see we have a number of icons here. Each icon represents a different service. As we're interested in RAID management, we'll load that.
Right.
And you get a nice visual picture of your RAID system. And we have 5 configured disks, which you can see here on bank C. There's a 6th disk here, which has a red ring around it, and that's a hot standby, so that if one of the others fails, as we're using RAID 5 on this system, then it will automatically rebuild. But let's have a look and see what kind of functions we can perform. We can have a look at the statistics and views, but the really interesting thing here is this list. Now you'll see most of them are greyed out because before I can actually perform any of those functions, I have to spin the disk down and stop the disk. Now, you might want to stop the disk if perhaps you've received, say, a PFA error, predictive failure analysis, notification through PC System View.
Right.
And then you can stop the disk, spin it down, and maybe rebuild to another disk. And at a convenient time, you could go in and physically replace the failed disk.
Right. Is this information is obviously actually being ascertained from the server right here and now? This isn't off some database or previously constructed list here?
Absolutely. All of this information is dynamic. It's real time. We can use a database, but for all of this kind of function, we go directly to the PC and collect that information real time. And that's very important because things can change very quickly.
Okay. Now, I know that you say that PC System View can manage both PCs and, of course, servers, clients, as well as servers. What happens if you want to look at one of the clients and the management server isn't online, for example?
Okay, we don't require a management server. PC System View is a peer-to-peer product, so we can manage a whole range of desktop systems without having a server present. So obviously you'll be notified if a server fails, but you can carry on managing all of your users. And if you need to, you can save information onto a database server in DB2 or Lotus Notes, and that information can be interrogated at a later date, maybe for trend analysis.
Right. Okay. Keith Inwood, who's Lantec's IBM product manager, says that I have to ask you about this thing called Wake Up on LAN. So I'm asking, tell me about that.
Wake Up on LAN is a very interesting technology. It's available just recently on our commercial desktop systems, and it uses an Ethernet adapter within a desktop or a server system, and it allows you to literally switch that system on remotely using the network. And that's of most use when you're doing the type of functions such as asset management. Now that function is one that can give you considerable savings on your cost of ownership of any PC.
Indeed.
And you're most likely to want to do that when the network is quiet, maybe overnight, when the systems are switched off. So you can switch them all on, and you can do hardware and software inventory and collect all of that data and put it into a database overnight, and then switch the systems back off again.
Right, so software inventory as well as hardware inventory now?
Absolutely.
Right, that's a big addition, isn't it?
That's one of our new functions, and it's a complementary function to the hardware function that we've had for a few years now. Let me show you what we can do with software
Please do.
inventory.
Yes.
Now, as you can see, we have a number of the different icons, as I explained before, and one of these is for software inventory. So let's have a look at that. As we speak, the information will be collected, and initially we'll come up with a blank screen. But we can do a search of the database, or sorry, a search of our system dynamically.
Right.
And we'll do a full dictionary search to start with.
Right. You said search of the database. I think you were preceding yourself a little. You can create a database, I guess, from this information if you want to, can you?
Absolutely. We can export this data to a DB2 or to a Lotus Notes database, or in fact to an ASCII file, a text file, or to a printer.
So you can actually compare with what used to be there with what is there now and what ought to be there and so on.
Absolutely. And using another function called Process Manager, you can even go and see, okay, we have these applications installed. How often are these applications used on which systems?
Oh, right. Yes, that could be quite useful information. As we see here, here's a list of everything that resides on that system that you're interrogating.
Yeah,
There's quite a lot there. That's a lot of information that's got back quickly, isn't it?
That has got a lot of information. We can search on around 1,500 packages, and you can change the dictionary, you can update the dictionary, you can add new applications, maybe that are specific to your situation, maybe homegrown applications. But you can add them to the database and search on those as well.
Well, clearly the product has come a long way since the version that Mitch Medford showed us. But there's one other thing I'd like you to show, which I do know, and that is that you can actually use a World Wide Web browser, I understand, to use all these facilities as well.
That's absolutely right. With PC System View version 4, which is available very soon, we have added the ability to manage over the web. And we use a web browser that supports HTML2 and tables.
Right.
And that can be from virtually any platform, an Apple Mac, a Unix-based system, or, as I'm going to be showing here, from an OS2 system.
Okay, so we're launching the web browser now.
We are launching the web browser, and as you can see, we have a URL already typed in here. And what we're actually looking at here is our server. So I've gone through the group management in exactly the same way as I did when I was accessing directly. And I've gone to the server system, which was shown in exactly the same way. And notice that the icons are the same as well.
Yes, indeed.
Now, I mentioned the Process Manager before. Now, I'd like to just show you that over the web and
Yes,
show you
please
one
do.
of the functions that we can perform. And again, we just click on the icon on the function that we require. And that will load all of the processes that are currently active on our server. And again, it's doing this dynamically. So it's picking up the information, searching for that information. And the HTML interface obviously is a little more flat than we are used to with PC System View in its native mode.
Right. I think what a lot of our viewers will be wishing me to ask you is it secure?
Absolutely. We are as secure as the internet will allow us to be. Plus, we use our own security as well. PC System View has a log-on user ID and encrypted password that we use whether we're using the web or if we are accessing directly. We use that plus the ability to specify exactly which web browser on which system can access our PC System View Manager.
Right.
And in the future we will support the secure socket layer, which will be an industry standard, and that will give us encrypted data as well as encrypted user ID and password.
Interesting. Well, clearly it's a very different product from the one that we saw a year ago. I'd like you to stay with us, if you will, and take part in the discussion in a few minutes. But for the moment, Alison, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now, here is Victoria Farmer with this month's look at APT's Multimedia Futures.
And now, here's just a few of the most recent items available via the internet from APT's Multimedia Futures. Microsoft's Internet Explorer version 3 was released to early beta at Microsoft's San Francisco Professional Developers Conference. As expected, it supports Sans Java, Style Sheets and JavaScript. It also supports Frames, a notable omission from Explorer 2. It also has extensions for some new ActiveX technologies, such as streaming audio and video. By the time Explorer 3 reaches users in June, it's also going to have an America Online button as part of a deal with AOL. It will also include a personal audio server from Progressive Networks that lets users send their own real-time audio stream. Explorer 3 should be ready for final release this summer. British Telecom is looking to take virtual reality one step further by networking virtual worlds together to improve business communications. Graham Walker, who is leading the research, said, "We are interested in bringing people into contact with each other, together with content and applications. This is where we see BT's business heading." The research is being undertaken at the BT laboratories in Martlesham. At this stage, BT are working on making the virtual experience more real. The key to the research is understanding how vision and acoustics relate to each other in people's comprehension of real information. Translating this knowledge to networked virtual worlds is the next step, so that they are more real and more acceptable for the end user. The pinnacle of BT's demonstration of this research is a vision dome from the Ultimate Realities Corporation. The dome is similar to an Omnimax screen and lets up to 15 viewers at a time watch projected virtual world images. The dome gives 360 by 180 degree hemispherical field of view with spatialized sound, and without the need for a headset or goggles. Microsoft may scoff at the Internet Terminal as conceived by Oracle and some microsystems, but it's an entirely different matter when it comes to their own handheld $500 Internet device. Microsoft is apparently teaming up with two consumer electronics hardware manufacturers to release a handheld personal digital assistant later this year that will enable users to get onto the Internet. Apparently, it is to be a device smaller than a notebook computer and will enable users to download messages and store documents. It will include a keyboard for stripped-down applications such as word processing. The operating system, believed to be codenamed Pegasus, will be integrated with Windows so that the user can share information with a desktop computer at home or in the office. Virgin Radio has launched an online radio station, providing a live audio feed to visitors to its new website. The service is a live transmission of the radio station over the Internet and can be accessed worldwide. Users need to have a copy of the Real Audio software, which can be downloaded at no charge from the Virgin Radio Internet site. The Imagination Network online service is developing something new. It's a 3D virtual reality environment with spatial sound immersion that allows participants to see and join conversations as they wander within visual earshot. It has high-resolution graphics, spatial sound and fully animated characters. Named Cyberpark, it's designed like a city with buildings and neighbourhoods that will house entertainment activities and games. It will be staffed by animated characters, including sorcerers, waiters and butlers. The idea is that online visitors can gather and socialise around entertainment content, bulletin boards and chat rooms. It's scheduled to launch this summer. And that's APT's Multimedia Futures for April 1996.
Multimedia Futures is available via the internet. Email info@apt.globalnews.com. Please mention video interface in your inquiry.
The enterprise network of today delivers computing to all aspects of corporate business. But the problem facing all of us is how do we manage the mainframe, the mid-range, the Unix workstation, the PC servers, the PC desktops, and of course the portables. Not to mention the financial director's problem in controlling all his asset base. With me today is Digital Server Business Development Manager Andrew Humphreys. Hello, Andrew.
Hi.
Can digital meet this challenge that is on every IT director's agenda?
Well, digital have been meeting this challenge for the last 20 years. In the mini and the mainframe environment, good management tools and good information have been taken as a given. What we've done is we've taken digital's industry-leading set of management products and we've brought those into the PC LAN environment. Now, digital's ServerWorks and ClientWorks products together allow you to manage not just PC servers, but also desktops, PCs themselves, notebooks, and your complete heterogeneous network environment. Hubs, routers, bridges, everything that a network manager and an IT manager needs to track and maintain.
One of the big problems, because there's been management tools around for quite a while, but they tend to be proprietary and they only tend to look after, say, 70% of the enterprise. What is digital's offering?
Well, I think that's absolutely true, and perhaps one of the other issues is that there are already a number of large management tools out there that people are using, products from HP like OpenView, Digital's own Polycenter, and IBM's NetFinity products. These are products that people have invested a lot of money in. What we've done is we've taken the industry standards and built a set of tools that interface into all those environments. So you can get to the information that you need from whichever screen or whichever enterprise system management system that you're using. And you can take the output from Digital's suite of products and output that into products like Microsoft's SMS and AssetWorks and products like that. But the other important thing, as you say, is the management of a heterogeneous environment. What we've realized is that there's not going to be one corporate environment where there's just digital on everybody's desk. So we've developed a set of tools that allow you to manage anybody's product.
Good. The key thing about single console management is obviously ease of use. Is this a reality?
Well, let me show you how it works. From a single system here, I can see my entire network, and in fact what I can do is go and go across the entire network and discover everything that's sitting out there, everything that's got a TCP IP address, and that will of course include all the internet products that might be connected to my web server. All the remote notebooks that people are accessing through my firewall, all that sort of stuff I can see, and I can then get to manage. What the system actually then allows me to do is it will draw a map of my complete network. You can see I've got a small network set up here, and I can then go into any of these different items and manage them. For example, I might take a server. Here's a digital server. This one happens to be running Windows NT, and I can get access to it. I can look at the hard disks, I can look at the network interface card, I can look at the processors, for example, within the system, and I can do things like, I can graph the information so that I can see when I need to upgrade my server, when I need to add more disks, or when the file server starts behaving poorly, I can graph that information and it'll tell me when it's time to upgrade.
Sure. Looking at graphs is one thing. Will it convey messages, alerts to the user or controlling manager, wherever they are?
Well, that's absolutely vital, and what you can do with the ServerWorks set of products is a whole series of preemptive alerts. So you can see, for example, if a disk is behaving poorly, that might be time to change the disk before it actually fails. And it'll send you alerts, it'll page you, it'll do all the things that you'd expect it to do.
Sure. Obviously that keeps the IT manager reasonably comfortable. What about the finance director? He wants to know where his assets are, who's accessing them, what are they doing, how long are they doing it for, etc., etc. How does Digital's suite meet this challenge?
Well, I think the other important problem is that most corporate IT managers and finance managers don't know how many PCs they've got, and worse still, what's physically inside the machines themselves. What you can do with the ServerWorks suite and ClientWorks suite of products is actually investigate across your entire network, and by using the ClientWorks set of products, you can see what's physically inside the machines. There's been a tremendous advance in technology with the DMI, desktop management interface.
All right, I was going to say that's a reasonably new acronym. Well, where does that fit? Is that digital zone, or is that common across the manufacturers?
Now, more and more manufacturers are adopting the DMI standard. It's a standard that was laid down by the Desktop Management Task Force, which is a hardware and software-based standard. What it allows you to do is get information about things like the physical memory, the processor, the IRQ settings of the machine, the physical hard disks, and also things like the BIOS and the operating system. So you can see across an entire network how your PCs are behaving, what's physically inside them, and you can also get, with tools like ClientWorks, a whole series of reports. For example, you might want to see how many of your machines are 286 or 386 or lower, or how many of your machines have got 8 megabytes of memory with expansion for more. The other important thing, of course, these days is the asset tagging of PCs and the components within the PCs. And ClientWorks also allows you on any DMI compliant machine, not just a digital, to be able to track all that information.
So theoretically, I could complete an enterprise audit from one PC, assuming that everybody is attached as they should be.
Absolutely, and with products like Microsoft's SMS, you can also not just tag the physical hardware inventory, but also export that into a report that gives you hardware and software inventory too, which is absolutely vital for the financial auditors, for example.
Do I need any special skills in the IT department to mesh SMS into ServerWorks, or is it a standard interface?
It's something that we've actually done already for you, because and you can see the simplicity of the system. It looks very much like a Windows 95 file manager or Windows Explorer. I can look down my entire network and get all the information that I need on system memory, logical memory. And there's even digital technical support telephone numbers in here. So if I don't know where to go for technical support, I can ring my digital hotline. And there's a whole load of graphs and reports already set up. And the output is immediately input into the Microsoft SMS environment.
Sure. The remote management aspect, again, is key. Obviously, a server goes down in some part of the world. What features meet that requirement?
Well, you're absolutely right, Steve. All this is fantastic, provided the network's up. The biggest problem facing a lot of network managers is what happens when that goes down. So what we've got is we've integrated the ServerWorks suite of products with a product called Remote Server Manager. What that allows me to do is, let's say, for example, the network's failed or my operating system's crashed on the machine. I can fire up Remote Server Manager, and you can see I've got a number of servers that I could connect to and manage in different parts of the world. Let's say I want to connect to this particular machine. This is part of an NT cluster that we've got set up. I can control that machine, I can connect to it, and I can even look at the whole entire console, and I can do anything from this screen, my management workstation here, that I could do if I was sat at the console of the machine.
So let me qualify that. You could be in the States, for example, a server goes down in Reading, and you could access it as if you were on the console of the server.
Absolutely right, and this is all done over a modem. And some of the other features you can see that I've got here, I can reboot the machine across a modem. I can even set the diskette so that I can physically reboot a machine that might be hundreds of miles away from a floppy disk that's sitting on my PC workstation here. And I can see it as it's coming up. And if I just do that, I can see the machine rebooting. I can get into the BIOS of the machine. I can transfer information across the modem, and anything that I could do if I was physically sitting at the machine there.
Okay. Obviously, these products seem to meet the requirement of the IT managers. How would are they available today, or is this the future we're looking at?
These are products that we've been shipping for over 2 years now. And the best part about it, Steve, is we actually We actually give them away free of charge. Whenever you buy a Priora system, you get ServerWorks, and whenever you buy a digital desktop PC, you get ClientWorks. This is stuff that's inherent to the development of network LANs, and as you'd expect from digital, we want to make sure that our customers can manage their entire network as easily and as simply as possible. And what better way than giving the products away with every server?
Andrew Humphreys, thank you very much.
For the first time on Video Interface, we've seen two competing products in one program. But there has been a common thread running through both of the presentations you've seen, and that has been the DMI, the Desktop Management Interface. With both Digital and IBM being on the Desktop Management Task Force that is setting that standard, we felt that this was worth a little further investigation. So Alison and Andrew are back with us to talk about this aspect. Alison, let me ask you first, how important is the Desktop Management Interface?
The Desktop Management Interface is very important to the industry as a whole. It helps us to be able to manage heterogeneous environments, both from applications that are developed by specific vendors such as IBM and Digital, and by other vendors. So the IBM Digital hardware can be managed by other systems management products as well. And that's very important. It's important to be able to manage mixed environments because most customers don't have all of their components from one vendor. It's usually mixed. And they want to manage it from one interface, from one systems management product, or systems management products that mix together very easily and integrate.
Andrew, important for Digital as well.
Absolutely. I think in order to be a truly open vendor, you need to support all the open standards that exist, and Digital is very, very keen to ensure that all our products comply to the DMI standard. And all the software products that we bring out to manage that don't just manage Digital hardware, but everybody else's hardware that conform to the same standard.
Right. Another common thread I notice has run through both of your presentations is this internet element. Is the internet going to come more and more into use in software like this, Andrew?
Well, yes. As the speed of the internet and the performance and the security of the internet increases, more and more corporate users are finding that the use of the public network to transmit their own internal data is saving them vast amounts of money. So it's only sensible to be able to use the internet to manage items that are at the other end, for example, PCs or servers at the other end of a firewall, or even the firewall products themselves. So all these products that we're talking about need to be able to use the internet network to fulfill the major benefit that people want to get out of them.
Alison, clearly IBM have arrived at the same decision on this.
Absolutely. Why not use an existing infrastructure of the worldwide internet? It allows you to manage worldwide corporations through from PC to PC, and that's vitally important. It also allows you to be able to manage from a variety of platforms without having a lot of specialised software at the end of the manager, which I think is also vitally important. And of course the internet can be intranet as well within a firewall. And again, it's an existing infrastructure and it's a very widespread technology.
Alison, the Desktop Management Task Force, of which IBM is a member, is the standard now set, is the job done, or is there still more to do with the DMI standard?
I believe that the DMTF have come a long way in the last few years. They've achieved what a lot of other open standards haven't quite been able to achieve. And obviously it contributes extensively to reducing the cost of ownership of a PC. However, their focus has been on the desktop so far, and although they started to look at the server, I think that's where they can make a lot more improvements. And they're not quite there yet with managing the server environment, and that's where I think we'll see most of the progress in the next few years.
And clearly, Andrew, Digital looking forward to taking part in this future as well.
Well, absolutely. As a joint steering committee member, we're very, very keen on this, and we'll see enhancements to the functionality of the servers. You'll get plug-and-play components within the servers too, and the DMI will enable you to manage those environments. You'll get plug-and-play RAID controllers, plug-and-play network interface cards, and even CPUs. So that contributes greatly to the robustness, reliability, and performance of a PC LAN server. I think the other thing that's important is that we need to make sure that as many companies as possible adopt the standards. We've seen other organizations either taking part of it or trying to change it to make it more proprietary. I think what we've seen from IBM and Digital here is that we've put the DMI throughout the complete range of our notebooks and our desktop PCs, and we will be bringing those into our servers. So that gives us a very easy to manage heterogeneous environment, which reduces the cost of ownership and increases the benefit to our customers.
And for IBM, important to follow the standard.
Absolutely. As Andrew said, a lot of vendors have just chosen convenient pieces of the standard, and no system can be truly open unless it follows the standard to the letter, and that is what we have done, and I believe that's the way for the future.
So IBM and Digital working closely together. It's good to see. Alison Farley, Andrew Humphreys, thank you very much for joining us today. And with us again to close the programme with his views of the world of personal computing is Guy Kewney. Welcome back again, Guy.
Hi, Steve.
Guy, tell me about the Universal Serial Bus, please.
Well, to talk about the Universal Serial Bus, I think you have to go back a little bit and talk about joysticks. We all know that if you want to move a pointer around a flat screen, about the best tool we've found is a mouse. I suppose if we had screens that sat in our lap, we could use our finger and touch the screen, but since they're huge boxes full of vacuum, they sit on a desk because they're too heavy to put in our lap. So the mouse is a good way of doing it. The mouse is very good for moving in 2 dimensions. The best way we've ever found of driving something in 3 dimensions is what a pilot uses. He uses a joystick. Now, joysticks up to recently have been rather a sod to control, basically, because they're basically 2 volume controls, analog sliders, and they get out of sync and they drift off, and people who play games with them get very fed up, and they're not precision instruments at all. There are ways of fudging this, but they're all unsatisfactory. So it was, I think last autumn, Microsoft announced that it was going to fix this, and it was going to switch the world to a digital joystick, and they launched one of their own. Now, the trouble with the digital joystick is that nobody's got anything that it'll plug into. And most of us who've got serial ports on our machine have the mouse plugged into one and a COM port in the other. So it does leave you with a bit of a problem as to where you plug your digital interface. And what they've come up with is the idea of a serial bus instead of the serial port. Intel's obviously one of the main people behind that. Towards the end of this year, they'll be selling motherboards to all their suppliers, which these days is most people, with USB output, which means you can do something rather like the Apple does with its little desktop daisy chain of serial connections with the mouse and the
mouse,
keyboard,
graphics tablets, and so on.
And this will be pretty quick, and you'll be able to plug a lot of things into it. And one of the things we will be seeing in it is genuine 3-dimensional controls using a joystick for a lot of things that we haven't used before. And I think you'll find that with all the virtual reality tricks that you're seeing on virtual reality memory stuff on the web, you're going to see an awful lot of applications where people who genuinely are absolutely business users, no fooling around, have joysticks the way that you would today expect them to have a mouse, simply because it's very hard to see how you would control a 3D interface. And of course, the 3D interface is going to be with us. If you look at it, most of the work that people are doing on their software and their BIOSes at the moment, apart from catching up with the new iterations of the motherboard, is to produce good 3D on screen. Now, we've had a breakthrough there. You probably noticed that Microsoft has finally released its Direct 3D, together with an awful lot of active this and active that and active the other for the web. And once Direct 3D is out and standard and everybody's got one and they can start writing software to it, you will find that an awful lot of the things that we can do in drawing 3D, it's 3D, I mean, we're not talking about stereo here, we're talking about 3D images on a flat screen. Yes. But it'll be much, much easier to draw that. At the moment, you're seeing things where you produce this thing like Toy Story. It takes years of computer time to produce a sequence. We're heading to a time where you can actually simulate far simpler 3-dimensional things in real time. To do that, you need a 3D interface. And of course, to filter your way through these 3D interfaces, we'll need a whole new set of controls. So I think we're going to see those as 2 very big trends this year.
Okay. You had a delightful little story you were telling me just now about a mobile phone. Would you tell our viewers that as well? Because I think it's so funny.
Well, you're thinking of the fact that the mobile people... Well, the trouble with mobile people is they form 2 groups of completely separate, watertight, completely insulated populations. You've got the people who understand about mobile phones, and they understand phones. They understand phone chargers, and they understand phone stealing and cloning and all the things that worry the mobile user. And over here you've got the laptop users, and they know all about logging on and modems and data transfer rates and that sort of thing. And for years, it's been impossible to persuade the people in the phone business that there was any point in trying to transmit data. They absolutely point blank refused to believe it could be done. And it was, of course, therefore impossible to persuade the computer people that there was any point in thinking of a mobile phone as a way of connecting. Now, with the arrival of the digital phone, this all changes. And indeed, we're seeing a lot of changes in the digital phone scene at the moment. I notice, for example, that Orange, which transmits at twice the normal digital frequency. Normal Vodafone is, Cellnet is GSM at 900. Orange and one-to-one are 1800. The Americans are 1900. So we are going to see fairly soon dual standard phones in America which will come over here and work on the Orange frequencies. And of course, when that happens, the demand for data will be enormous. The problem is, who's going to tell the phone people about this demand for data? We had one company send in a phone for review. Why they sent it into PC Magazine is not altogether clear, because we looked at it and we found a little socket at the bottom. We said, what's this for, a spare battery? And they said, no, don't talk about that. So we said, well, it's obviously there for some reason. They said, it's a serial port. We said, serial port? They said, don't tell anybody. We said, well, why not? They said, we're not ready to announce it yet. And we said, well, it seems like it would be very useful. I mean, Nokia sells a PCM CIA card worth £500. It must cost them all of 35 pence to build, the margin. They said, no, but we don't think there's any demand for it.
Yes, okay. Well, there's the story, and our viewers can make of that whatever they will. We had an item in Multimedia Futures a little earlier on in the programme about Microsoft's new $500 internet-ready personal digital assistant, and they're scoffing at the net surfer type of unit. Your view of that as well, please.
It is to laugh, isn't it? Microsoft, 3 years ago now, they showed us their prototype WinPad, and they told us everybody would be using a WinPad, and then everybody said, well, it has to work better than the prototype, and Microsoft said, well, actually, the prototype works better than, doesn't, that was a demo, that isn't how good it's going to be, and so nobody bought one, nobody built one. And I saw some very nice WinPad designs, but you wouldn't have used one. And then, of course, the web started up, and Microsoft ignored it, safe in the knowledge that if Microsoft wasn't using the web, nobody would. And when this turned out to be a miscalculation, they announced they were going to dominate the web. I did some interesting statistics the other day. I was looking at logons. We tend to ask people which web browser they use, for example. Now, you noticed Microsoft is pushing Internet Explorer very, very hard at the moment. So we asked people which browser you're using. And it turns out that nobody has the faintest idea what the proportion is, but it's something like 95% of people using the web use Netscape. And the proportion of people using Microsoft's Internet Explorer has gone down in the last 3 months. It is now at an all-time low of 0.7%. So the reality and the hype there are somewhat far apart. I suspect that this new Microsoft web machine is going to turn out to need a couple of iterations as well, because we know what people are doing in the net surfer area. It's more important, I suspect, than Microsoft has correctly analysed yet. My colleague Jim Louderback recently did a little very convincing presentation on what does anybody want a web surfer for. The web surfer is something that Oracle is promulgating. It's putting it together with Acorn. Acorn is producing a machine which will go inside it. Oracle is promoting it. And the cost of this thing is around $500. It doesn't have a disk, it doesn't have Windows, it may not even have a screen, although we'll find that out in a couple of weeks when they announce it. And so people in the PC business have quite understandably said, why, if I can buy a PC for about $500, should I buy something that does none of the things a PC can do? And in fact, if you ask the question like that, the answer is very hard to see. So let's actually look at the reality. If I said, why did you buy a phone for $500? You would say, but I didn't. My mobile phone gave it to me. Well, you're buying it. Trust me, these people aren't giving you the phone because they're not going to make the money back. You're buying it in the terms of the call charges. Oracle, in the same way, is going to hand this thing over, not to you, but to somebody like Cable London or Cabletron or BT, who will put it in your house as a cable end box. Whether you pay $500 in front for the money or whether you pay it over your cable charges over the course of 2 or 3 years isn't the point. I would guess they'll probably launch it the way they did mobile phones, with a fairly high upfront cost. First, mobile phones were fiendishly expensive. Today, you can get a free hi-fi if you accept one. And the same will apply. You will find people getting these web surfers, and they will get them apparently free. Now, the question then arises, if I can get something which I can wander around the world, surf the web, examine the internet, connection is free because the cable company provided it, I don't see an upfront price, how am I going to go to this person and say, please buy a PC? By the way, for £600, you're going to get a really crap PC. And you will. I mean, today you can buy retail £700 a PC without a modem, with a very small screen and a very slow Pentium in it. We know that a Pentium looks like a fast machine this year, it's not going to look like one next year. Why would I pay £700 or £800 for such a beast? If I can, what do I want it for? Mostly, these days, if you say people, why do you want a PC? They say, I want to log on to the web. Don't need it, got one. It's going to be very, very hard to see people selling low-end PCs unless they also go to the web providers and say, why don't you provide one of ours as an upmarket thing? And I can think of a good reason why the users might say, still don't want it. Abort, retry, ignore. You won't get that on a website.
Yes. Yes, unrecoverable application error.
Exactly.
Oh, no, sorry, they're a thing of the past, aren't they? Finally, your friend Tony Denson, briefly guy, has been
You
inventing
remember Tony?
things.
Yes, well, Tony ran, he ran the software side of a company in Leeds, SysTime, for a long time, and then when they broke out, he bought out the software side, and they became an expertise area, and recently he was bought out and found himself rich and without a full-time job, so he's been inventing things. And the latest one is brilliant. You can set up your car with one of those James Bond machines with a map in it showing where you are. It costs £3,000, you've got wheel sensors, you name it, it's expensive. Tony thought this was dumb, so he got his sort of little Scion 3A, and into it he's plugged the cheapest GPS receiver he can get. You clamp the 3A to the dashboard of your car, you tell it where you are, where you want to start the journey and where you're going to go, and it gives you a list of landmarks, like there's the three hens, there's the duck and ducklings, there's the Frankenfurkin.
They're all pubs, basically.
Well, any landmark like that will do, but pubs are very good because there's so many of them as you drive along. And it will actually put a little arrow on its screen. And as you drive along, when you reach the junction you want to turn off, the arrow will say, turn left. And when you go there, and there'll be 4 little other arrows showing other landmarks so you can check your position. And of course it knows where you are because the GPS will tell it. Brilliant, 300 quid. Who could ask for more? Visionaire, he calls himself in Leeds, and I hope he sells 1,000 a day.
It sounds like a pretty good idea.
I must have one.
Not available from Lantec, I must say.
Not yet.
Unfortunately, not yet. But nevertheless, that's where to go and look. Guy, thanks for joining us yet again. And that is Video Interface Edition 21. We hope that you've enjoyed it. Coming through your letterbox about a week after this tape will be an invitation to Comdex UK 96. We'll be there, pretty much in the centre of the hall on stand 643, and we may be even shooting some video for Video Interface, so come along and say hello to us. That's it for this edition. Cheerio for now.